welcome back to my studio. My name is Tammy Ernest and I am a long-arm quilter. I run my own studio. I specialize in digital edge-to-edge pantographs, and here on my channel I love to share with you projects that I've been working on and also client finishes, and I am so excited about today's video. See that whole stack of quilts? We're going to talk about all those quilts today, as well as some updates on my alpine quilt that I've been working on, and lots of fun stuff. So I'm so glad you're here today. So it's today is December 20th, the day I'm recording, so we are only 5 days away from Christmas. Are you ready? I still have some projects to finish, do a little more shopping this afternoon, and hopefully get some things wrapped. And actually I want to finish up a couple quilts maybe for Christmas gifts. Are you like that? Do you procrastinate? Unfortunately I do. I've been putting all them other things ahead, and then I get inspiration at the last minute that I should have gotten 6 months ago for Christmas gifts, but it's all good. We'll get it done. So today, first let's start with some updates about my alpine quilt. So I've shown you, if you've missed the last couple weeks, you can go back and watch those videos, but I've been talking about making this quilt called Alpine, and I apologize for the glare. This is not in the package. This is actually a glossy paper that this is printed on, so it does cause a little bit of a glare, so I apologize for that. But this pattern is called Alpine, and it's by Camille Roskelly, and I've been working on this quilt. So this doesn't necessarily have to be out for Christmas. I'll put it out in, even though it is green colors, but I think I'll keep it out for wintertime decoration as well. But I wanted to show you the progress I'm making on this quilt. I have made a couple of the star blocks. We have a nice sunny day today, and which is wonderful. But it's causing a little bit of a glare today, but I'm not gonna downplay the sun. I love the sun being out. So this is one of the star blocks. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them in the pattern, and you'll notice that I'm using a lighter gray fabric than the pattern actually called for. That's because I had this on hand and I wanted to use that. This looks much more complicated than it is. Obviously you can see the star in the middle, and then you can see the blocks. These are just easy corner triangles put on the edges of that block, and then a couple half square triangles there, and you do 4 of those, and just by turning it the different ways it creates that radiation coming out from the middle star. So, but when you put it into the quilt pattern, doesn't that look pretty? Doesn't it look like snowflakes? I really like that. So I have 2 of these done, and as I said, there are 10. I get a little bored working on the same thing over and over, so I'll make a couple of these, and then I'll go on to one of the other blocks in the quilt. So I have 2 of these finished, and like I showed last week, all my pieces are cut, so it really goes pretty well. It's just been a busy week with Christmas shopping and all the preparations for that. So last week I also showed you my first house block, and here's that one again. And so part that I've been working on this week, there are 5 of those house blocks, and then 5 that actually have the windows. So I have all of the trees, tree part of the houses all ready. And then the next part that goes with that is you have the two separate roof pieces, and I'll show you those just in a second. And then the door piece, I'm working right now, I've got those under the sewing machine needle, the chimney ones, but I have all the roof pieces. So again, this is very simple. It's a rectangle, and then you put the triangle on the corner, stitch across, fold it back, and 2 different colors there that creates this front roof piece. And then the rectangle for the back one with just 1 triangle on the corner, and that creates the back roof piece. So those are all ready, they're stitched up. So I'm coming right along on that. Obviously won't be done by Christmas, but hopefully next week. Next week's a little slower. I don't know if it's like that around your house once the Christmas holiday is over. I love that week in between. Christmas and New Year's, because I just feel like everything slows down for 1 week before we take off again for the new year. And it's just, it's a peaceful time. I feel like you get some more thoughts and reflections. At least for me, I enjoy the new year. I'm a very goal list person, and so the start of a new year and a clean slate and creating all those goals and ideas. So hopefully I'll get a lot of sewing time in next week, and I can get this, at least more of the blocks done, if not the whole quilt done next week. So Camille Roskelly, and the fabric is her line that she did with her mom, Merry Little Christmas, by Bonnie and Camille. So that's my updates on that quilt. Also this week I've been working on a t-shirt quilt. I'm not going to show that. I have been working on a t-shirt quilt for a client, and that will go home later in the week, but I don't think I'll show that one. It's a special quilt for a brother who passed away, and we're using his shirts to make into a t-shirt quilt. I'm not sure if it's going to a family member or if it's just going to be staying in the immediate family, but it's a real special quilt. It's been thought-provoking as I've been working on it, and I hope it's a special treat for the family. But like I said, that'll go home later in the week. So this week I've also been doing a lot of Christmas shopping. So that's really all the updates on my sewing that I have done. But you see that whole stack of quilts right there. That's what we're going to talk about next. I wanted to show some client quilts that will be going home this week. Some tonight. We have guild meeting tonight. And we're having a Christmas party. We're having a pitch-in. And doing a cookie exchange, and it being December, it's the last night for our current president to be in office. And so our guild, we do at the end of the year, the president can tell us what kind of quilt blocks she would like us to make, and we all bring those the last meeting, and then she puts those together into a quilt. And so it's kind of a nice remembrance for her that from each one of us, but our current guild leader has asked just for flying geese blocks that she is going to use as a border for another quilt. So I've got mine already, going to take that this evening. But the first quilt I wanted to show you today is a donation quilt that our guild works on. So let me grab that. It's right on the top here. So our guild, if you're local and you're looking for a guild to join, our guild meets the third Tuesday of every month. We meet at the Well Community Church in Brownsburg, Indiana, and everyone's welcome. You're welcome to attend several meetings before we ask you to then pay for donations. But our guild does a lot of neat things, and one of the ongoing committees that we have is donation quilts. And I always like to donate my long arm services for that. Other people in the guild, we all have our special talents. And some people in the guild will actually donate the fabric. Other people in the guild will put together a quilt. And then I feel like one of my gifts that I can give is that I can long arm quilt those, and then somebody else will do the binding. So this is a donation quilt that someone in the guild made. I don't even know who it was. Somebody in the guild made and then brought and said this needs to be long arm quilted, so that's what I did this month. And this is a cute little girl's quilt. Let me get it going the right direction, because there's a lot of details to this one that I'd like you to see. All right. Got some sunshine shining on. Let me back my chair out of the way. All right, so I want you to get the overall picture first. You can see the house in the middle. And then as I get a little closer, can you see the kitty cat in the house window? Isn't that just the cutest? And there are so many details that the maker has made on this. Look at the rickrack around the roof. And the little kitty cat in the window there. She's even put, I don't know how well you can see that, little lace curtains in the window itself. Isn't that cute? And then there's the larger rickrack around, laid on top of the border, sewn down on that one inside border. And then around the edges, can you see the detail of the the branches with the little leaves, and they're done in pastel colors. That's really cute. Let me go on, there's another one there. And then look at this. I just put little birds. And these are just rough applique around it, just really stitched down. I think they were glued down as well because there was a tad bit of glue on the quilt itself. So I think that's the way it was done. And then she just stitched around the edges. So they're a rough edge, but now that they're sewn down, I'm sure they'll stay on. And another bird there. And look at this in the border. She did a little kitty cat, pieced kitty cat sitting there. And then at the bottom it looks sort of like a fence and some grass, doesn't it? All right, and let me see what else. More little branches, There's another tinier kitty cat with the sitting almost like it's behind the branches there. Can you see that? Isn't that cute? She put a lot of time into this. Whoever it was that made it is really cute. When I received it, I just had the quilt top, so I added the backing fabric, and I had that. This is just a piece that I had in my stash. I had some of the same colors. The pastels. This had a little more purple and green, but chose that for the backing fabric. And then if you can see, I did the pantograph kind of big because I wanted the puffiness of the quilt to stay, so I did it sort of big. So let's zoom in on the pantograph itself. This pantograph is called, I may not pronounce this correct, Moulin Rouge, M-O-U-L-I-N-R-O-U-G-E. Assume that's a French word. I did take French in high school, but you can see it's not stuck with me. So Moulin Rouge is the pantograph I chose in a large print. Let me show you what that looks like. Not stitched out, but actually on paper. So this is a notebook or a binder that I take with me when I'm meeting with clients in person. I will take this notebook with me so that they can actually see designs to choose from. So I just have all of my designs printed out. Sorry for the glare. So I just have them all printed out here. And I update this periodically as I add new pantographs to my studio. These are also the same. I print these on my website as well. So there's a tab on my website under, I think it says E2E designs or E2E pantographs. And what that means is edge-to-edge pantographs, because I don't do any custom quilting. So whatever design I'm doing it from top to bottom, left to right. The whole quilt is the same. But as you can see, the quilts are really, really pretty. So this is the Moulin Rouge. Let me take it out of the plastic. And you can tell this one is kind of tight. This is just a printout that I did. And this is really cute too. And so for this donation quilt, I blew it up larger so that it wasn't real tight. I wanted the applique and the puffiness of the quilt. But this would be just as cute on a baby quilt. This is just so fun. Playful. I like the little circles put in there too. I think that adds some playfulness. I have another one that's very similar to that one. This one is called Giggle, and let me just show you the difference. I don't even need to take it out of the binder. This one is called Giggle. Very similar. I've used this on a lot of quilts too. I like the puffiness, the playfulness of it. And then you see this one. This is the Moulin Rouge that I did on this quilt. Put them like that. See how it adds just a touch more flair, I want to say. A little more, just a little more fun. A little more pizzazz, maybe. If that's the word we can use. A little more pizzazz. But yeah, so I like to get the input of my clients. A lot of people will say, "Oh, do whatever you want. Do your magic." That's what I hear. I hear it a lot. Do your magic, and I don't mind that because I do like to pull a quilt out and lay it all out and just get some inspiration from the quilt itself. But I do want to get the input of the client because to know who the quilt is going to is a good consideration. Also. the maker of the quilt, just the feel that they had for the quilt. Did they want something a little more modern? Did they want something very feminine? Did they want something just subtle? Or do they want something where the quilt is actually, you know, the quilting is going to be a big draw to the quilt? So I like to get clients' input. I'm happy to do whatever I think as well, but I do like to do that. That's why I take this along with me when I meet clients in person. And you can always go to my website and look at the designs there as well. I'm always adding to it because we're always coming up with new ones. Or sometimes when I get a quilt in, I'm like, maybe this quilt pattern or this pantograph over here that I haven't done yet, and I'll go ahead and purchase it and use it on a new quilt. So that's my first quilt, this donation quilt. So I'll be taking this back to Guild tonight. I did not do the binding on it. I thought, again, you know, somebody else in the Guild that would like to use their time, to donate their time as well, that they can do the binding on that quilt. So that's number one. You can see the next quilt on top. I'm going to save that one for last, and I'm so excited to show that one to you. That one is a bookcase quilt, and so stay tuned all the way to the end because you're going to want to see that quilt. That one is really, really fun. The second quilt that I have that is going back this evening, let me pull this one out. This is a member of the Guild, and is one of my, I have several clients that are in the Guild, but this is one that I'm taking back tonight. Let me scoot my chair out of the way again. I believe this quilt is like 77 by 89 or something like that. It's a large quilt. So let me hold up a section of it here for you so you can kind of get the pattern for it. I'll insert a picture here too of the whole quilt so you can see the whole thing. But purple and lavender, and then the green fabric has some of that same purple and lavender in it. Move around a little bit. It's almost the same length as width, so there. Okay, so I'm going to bring it in closer so you can see some of the details of it. So let me show you up close one of the blocks. And like I said, I don't know the pattern name, but if you're interested, leave a comment and I will talk to Ruth and see if that she can tell me. So in my looking at it looks like we have two blocks, two different alternating blocks. So first we have this one. And this one looks like a center square in the lavender and then a darker, and then on either side of that, just some rectangles. The darker purple and the greenish color. Then here, this is a square with the blue as the half corner or the easy corner triangles. A rectangle there, so you can see that block there. And then the next block is this one. You see how this one is done, easy corner triangles on all four of those in the middle, and by turning them that way it gives it the X shape. Then you have, if you can see, this is actually two different greens there. Very similar, but two different greens. So this is an easy corner triangle put on this rectangle. Yeah, there you can see it. A little, very subtle, but it gives it a nice effect. And then squares on the corner, so that's the second block. And then those are just alternated all the way around to create the quilt pattern. Then a purple border, and then a larger batik border on the outside. And then the backing is a green, that would be purple, Tammy. A purple batik. All right, now let's talk about the pantograph. The pantograph I chose is Sage, and I did this one last week on the Lori Holt quilt that I showed you that was mine that I had made using her Scrappiness is Happiness book, and I had used the same pantograph, but I thought it went so well on this quilt too, so we used it again. Sometimes I feel like I do the same pantograph over and over. I have to remember the quilts are all going to different people, you know, so even though I may do the same pantograph 10 times, it's 10 different people that probably don't even know each other, and they're all getting a quilt with that same pantograph on it. so they're not getting the same quilts with the same pantographs. All right. I can pull this one out of the binder too so that you can see this one close up. Because it's a little, I used a gray thread, which works really well. Gray is a very neutral color when you use it on quilts. So like this, by using a light gray, it blends in much better than a white thread. If you used a white thread on this, it would be very noticeable. And that's fine. Some people may want that, but Ruth wanted wanted it more to be in the background, not as the star of the show. Her quilting is the star of the show. There you can see a little bit, the Sage. Let me show you what that one looks like on a printout, so you can see that one. There's Sage. Depending on how you orient the quilt on the long arm, you know, it could, if you, the way it's done, well, on this quilt it's not going to matter, because depending on how you lay it out, it's the same. But if you have a quilt that you would rather the pantograph go up and down like this, we can load the quilt sideways, so that the top and the bottom of the quilt are actually on the edges. And then when I stitch, because it's going to stitch out this direction, because it's all a continuous line, so the computer's going to follow the continuous line, and that goes across horizontally. But if we load the quilt with the top and the bottom of it on the two sides, and when I quilt it out, when you turn it back around, it's going to be up and down like this. So there, you know, this one kind of is directional. Not all pantographs are necessarily directional. I think this would look just as good this way as it does this way, and most quilts, when you have it on the bed, you know, this one's almost square, so it's not going to matter. Depending on which side of the bed you're standing on, right? Will be the side, the direction of the pantograph. So batiks are very, I find, very easy to quilt. They're very slick, you know, almost like butter. It just goes right through. It soaks the threads right into it. Let me get up close. Soaks the threads right into it. It's very, very nice. I enjoy quilting with batik. So let's fold this one up. So Ruth will be excited to get this one home. She can work on some binding after the Christmas holiday. Fold this one up nice. And there we go. All right, the next two quilts that I have are both by Becky. And let's do this bottom one first. Scoot my chair out of the way. This is Halloween Prince. And these are all, look like 2.5-inch squares. Look at this. This is so fun. This is one of those quilts that when it's on the long arm, or even when you're stitching it and you're 8 inches away from it the whole time, you don't see the whole pattern. But when you pull it off and hold it out like this, look at that. Love that pattern. There, you see, giving it even farther away, you can start seeing the bigger design. Love, 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 love that. Okay, and I have to show you the back before I sit down and show you details up front. Look at this piece backing that Becky used on this. This is all Halloween prints as well. There's a panel right there in the middle. Let me hold that part up. She's used a panel, a little off center, not necessarily in the middle. Then she's used some big or larger pieces of fabric. The witch hat's there, some plaid there. This one is some Halloween type scene there. I love the color of that. Some black polka dot, look at that, with a white stripe in between. And this is fun, this white stripe in between. She actually used that in a pirate quilt that we did back over the summertime. And then down the side she has more of the blocks from the front. At the bottom, more of the black and white polka dot, and then some orange, those stars? Yeah, some orange stars. What a great way to use up fabrics that you have, and it makes, look at that, that's just so fun. The backing of it is almost as fun as the front. Okay, so let's sit down and talk about this one. Becky gave me the details for this quilt, which I so appreciate this. Because so many of you are interested, not only do you want to see the quilts, but you might want to make them too. So let's talk about the details here of it, and then I'll show you the pantograph that I used. So this quilt is a free pattern. This pattern is a free pattern by Woodberry Way, and that is Woodberry, W-O-O-D-B-E-R-R-Y, Way, and it is called Gooseberry Scrappy Trip Quilt. And I will put a link down below for this here. Woodberry Way, there's the name. There's the gal. And this is a free pattern that you can get off of her website. And then here is, this uses a jelly roll. It says a jelly roll or 2.5 inch width of fabric strips. You can do this yourself. You don't necessarily have to buy a jelly roll to do it. If you've got a basket full of 2.5 inch strips, you could very well do this. It says that she used the Gooseberry by Leela Boutique, and there's her colorway. And then Becky redid that for the oranges and blacks, which I just think you could do one of these for every season, couldn't you? That one looks more springy. You could do red, white, and blue for patriotic, you know, red and white and green for Christmas. You could make one of these for all different colorways. You know, even the greens and teals, and purples, like was in Ruth's quilt there. And this would be so pretty in any colorway that you like. So a jelly roll, and then a jelly roll of white fabric as well, is what this one is used. Now, if you notice, Becky has done not just a white, the same white, but she used all different kinds of prints. And what is so fun, I just mentioned this, seeing that backing fabric, but some of these are fabrics that we used, or that she used in other quilts that I've quilted for her, which that's kind of fun. So some of these are the same prints that were on the back. Like there's the orange stars. There's some of that print. That's not the same one, but it's very similar. It looks like it's just a different colorway. But all Halloween fabrics. Mostly. I mean, there's a chicken wire. You know, you can even include that. Let me see if there's any other differences. This is just a rusty with black flowers on it. And then all of her whites, like I said, she didn't use the same white throughout, and I think that gives it such interest. All different whites. Some are even a little gray. There's a little bit of gray in there. But obviously you can see that the whole overall pattern works. It's just a lighter tone, alternating with the darker ones. Then the pantograph that I chose for this one. I chose one called Prism Peaked. And I got the inspiration using this one. I wanted something that wasn't square because we had so many squares. So I wanted some diagonal lines in it. I didn't feel that a swirl was necessarily what I wanted, not necessarily circles. So I wanted something with some diagonal lines to intersect those, the straight lines of the square is the reason I chose this. And then I thought this Prism Peaked also kind of mimicked the witch's hats fabric that was on the back. So again, let me show you that up close. So this pantograph would be good to use on any like woodlands type of quilt, even a Christmas tree type of quilt, or anything where you wanted some geometric shape to it, and like I did on this one. So let me show you. That's one of the ones that I bought at Black Friday. And so I was excited to use it for the first time on Becky's quilt here. So isn't that fun? I get, someone left a comment last week, said, okay, I had to buy the panel that you showed, you know, and I said, I just love being a quilt enabler. Well, you guys are just as much quilt enablers for me, because I see I have these quilts come in and I'm like, oh, I want to make one of those. And oh, I want to make one of those. I don't have enough hours in my day, but I'm sure you're the same way, right? I have a second one from Becky, so let's pull that one out and look at that one. This one up tall. I love this one too. You're gonna love this one too. All right. This pattern is by Quilty Love, and we'll talk about the details just a second. You've got to see this one all, and I'll get pictures of this before it goes home and insert those here so that you can see the whole thing, because I'm not going to get the whole thing in the camera. You can see how it gradiates down to different, and then I've got greens at the bottom here. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? Now, you got to see the backing. Becky does such a great job with her backings. Look at this backing fabric. Is that not? Doesn't it just match the front so well? Look at that. Let me get in close so you can see those animals. Look. Doesn't that just match the playfulness and fun on the front? Isn't that great? That is so cute. So cute. All right. So let's get in close and show you some of the blocks on the front. So this one, let me just give you the pattern name real quick. This is Scrap Stash Plus Quilt by Quilty Love. All right, so let's look at some of the details. Here's some blues, some darker blue, and then a lighter blue, and then a darker blue. So that one then is alternated, a light blue with a dark blue. And then we're moving into the purples. And then across the top, then it goes into the reds and the oranges, all the way over to the yellows, and then it changes as you go down as well. All right. Let me show you the pattern. This again is a free pattern. I'll put the link down below. So Scrap Stash Plus Quilt by Quilty Love. You can see that right there. And you can see on the pattern how it gradiates from one to the other. And isn't that cute? I just love this. This is so much fun. So let me show you some of the fabrics. And again, by being a scrap quilt, some of these fabrics I know that she has used in other projects. So the great use of, you know, keep those scraps and put them in bins, organized somehow, so then you can use them for all these projects like this. Yeah, that are those cherries. That I know we use that, or she used that one on another quilt that she gave me. And here's that same one. So here, I haven't looked at the instructions on for the quilt. I'm not sure how you cut these out, but look here, that print is the middle, and over here, that print is the outside. And I love this fabric right here. The streets. Reminds me of sitting in Subway. Subway restaurant years ago when they used to decorate with that. I'm not sure they do anymore, but love that. This is another one I like. Look at this print, the words. Have I said before how much I love words? And you'll get to see that in the bookcase quilt I'll talk about here in a minute. I love words. So it's like faded type. But all different fabrics. This is so fun. You know, the ice, actually, here's a green. I know I made one of my daughters. I used that fabric in a quilt for one of my daughters. I had 3 daughters that shared a bedroom. Well, actually, one of them just got married this summer, so now there's only 2 in the bedroom. But when they were young, I made them 3. I made them each a quilt. All the quilts matched. They were the same pattern, and we used one fabric that was the same. That was more of a, like a taupey color, and then it had some people on it and that kind of thing. And then each one of them, the other fabrics in the quilt were all different. So one daughter's was green, one daughter's was blue, and one daughter's was pink. But then they had that one fabric that was the same for all of them. And they used those for many, many years. But I know that green fabric was one that I used in one quilt. Okay, so let's talk about the pantograph. This pantograph, let me go back to the top. I actually took a picture of this quilt and sent it to my business buddies. There's 6 of us that are in a group called Business Buddies from all over the U.S. And I said, hey, what pantograph do you think I should use for this quilt? And they gave me a few suggestions, and one of them was this one called 2 Scoops. That was perfect. That was perfect. So let me hold it up so you can see it close. And I don't have this one printed out yet either because this is a new purchase. But the actual pantograph, each line, it comes up here, does a scoop around, comes down here, does the scoop around, up there, like that. So then when I programmed it into the machine, I actually had those, I took the design, the lines that were like that, and I interlocked them like this so that they're actually going in between each other when it stitches the next row. Can you see that? So you could separate this one out, you know, and have just the big loop like that, and then the next one farther like, but I like the look of it being nested together like that. Makes it look like a much more complicated pattern than it really is. And I like the little bit of angle in there, but then the little bit of roundness too. There's another pantograph I have called Wishbone, put out by the Longarm League. Very similar concept, sorry about that. Similar concept. This one is called Wishbone, and I've used this on a lot of, this is really cute too. So the difference in this one was this, it had a little more triangle shape right here at the top for the one that we actually, the 2 Scoops one. So very similar, just a tad bit different, and you can see how this one is nested together. The darker line is actually what stitches each row, and it'll stitch that entire row out, and then I'll move the long arm back to the other end, and it'll go and it'll stitch the next one. So when designers print or develop the PDF for us to see, they show you the darker line so that we can see how it's stitching out. And you can do this in all different sizes. You know, obviously I can make it bigger or smaller, but that's really fun. So I just love this quilt by Becky. I just love Becky. Becky is also a wonderful cross stitcher. And one of these days I'm going to do a cross stitch video, a floss tube. I may like do it once a month. Leave it in the comments if you'd like to see a floss tube. Got some new patterns coming. Actually, for Christmas, I asked my husband if he would buy me a cross stitch pattern that's coming out. That there's a stitch along coming in January, and some cross stitch stuff. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Like, it's a win-win. You know, I get what I want, and he's happy because he's buying me what I want, and it doesn't have to be a surprise. So anyway, that's Becky's quilt. Like I said, Becky is not only an avid quilter, but a cross-stitcher as well, and I so enjoy working on her projects. And there's that backing fabric again. How fun. How fun, fun, fun. All right, so let me fold this one up, and then we'll get started on the last quilt for today. So this last one that I'm going to show you is one that I've had in the works for a while here. Let me real quick just say this quilt right here, the holiday one, that was in last week's video. So if you're interested in that quilt, you can look up last week's so that you can see that one. I did this kind of backwards, didn't I? Started at the bottom. All right, this one, let me just talk first. This one, so I had, we have homeschooled our children. I had 2 daughters graduate in 2020. Hard year to graduate, but they're actually a year apart in age. Actually, can I tell you this? They are 51 weeks apart. That means I had the second one before the first one turned a year old. Those were some tough days. Those were some tough days, but they are the best of friends today. And actually in homeschooling them, what we did is kind of slowed the older one down a little bit, sped the other one up a little bit, especially in high schools when we did this, just so that they were taking the same subjects together through those last 4 years. That way I wasn't teaching biology one year and turning around teaching biology again the next year. At the same time I was teaching chemistry to one of them. So what we did is put them together. So that meant that they graduated together. Not saying that's right for everybody. I'm not even sure it was the right decision for us, but it's what we did. And we went with it. So they both graduated in 2020, and I asked them when they graduated what I would like to make you a quilt for graduation, and what would you like? And they decided that they would like book quilts. They're both avid readers. I don't know where they get that from, but love, love, love to read. And so what we did was take this quilt. Let me show you the pattern, and then I'll show you the quilt. Years ago, I went to a like a quilting expo. It wasn't called. I know there's something called Quilting Expo. This is called something else. It was like a shop hop, where all of the shops, instead of you going each to the individual shops, all of the shops were together in one expo hall, and then for 2 days you could come and shop at all, you know, is what, 25, 30 different quilt stores that all came from probably a 3 or 4 state radius and came to one spot. And so I've gone to that several years. Actually, this past year they didn't have it. The building that they used got sold for whatever reason. They didn't have it this past year, but hopefully coming in the next year, because it was always fun just to go and spend money. I shouldn't say that, but it's just fun and all in one spot. And I've gotten a lot of projects over the years by doing that. But one year I went and walked past this booth that had this quilt hanging up. This is called the Personal Library Quilt. You can see that. This is by Crimson Tate. I was unfamiliar with Crimson Tate. Come to find out, Crimson Tate has a store in Indianapolis, which is about an hour away from me. I've been to her store. It's on Mass Ave in Indianapolis. And if you're familiar with Mass Ave, that's like the cultural hub of Indianapolis. A lot of, not everything there's for me, but a lot of pubs. They have bookshops. They have like the kitty coffee kind of shops. Just a lot of what I would say hip things of the time there. But that's where Crimson Tate's shop is. It's a cute little store. And if you're familiar with Crimson Tate, I was in there over this past summer, and she was, Heather Givens is the owner and the designer. And she was in there, and I'm like, Heather, were you a teacher before you started quilting? And she said, yes, she was an art teacher. And I'm like, you had to see it, because I've got several of her patterns to show you today. But I walked in back to the expo that I went to, walked past her booth, and this quilt was hanging up. And the fabrics, so I've got the fabrics, and I'll show that to you. But I bought the whole caboodle. I want all the fabric, I want all the pattern, I want the whole thing. So when my daughters graduated, they said they wanted a book quilt, and they wanted to be able to personalize it with their favorite books from school. Not school books, but their favorite fiction or autobiographies or biographies or nonfiction books that they had. They wanted to personalize the books with them. Now, in the pattern itself, it gives you 3 different sizes. And again, this is a glossy thing, so I apologize for the glare, but it has crib, lap, and full sizes. And I believe the one daughter I'm going to show you here, hers may be, it's not the lap one, so hers must, I don't know, maybe it's the full one. I haven't measured it to be sure. All right, so let me show you something else. In the back, so there's all different kinds of blocks. But Heather in the thing shows you all the different kind of blocks that you can make. And so what my daughter did is she printed those off, and then she, on graph paper, because there's like block A, like here's block A, and it has a wider book, and it has a couple thinner ones, couple smaller ones. Can you see that? And that's just one of the blocks. And then there's B, C, D, E, I can see even F and G, so it goes quite a ways. So then she printed those out and cut them out and then put them on her graph paper so that she could kind of say and kind of match the book that she had read to the size of the book as it would be on the shelf. So like Jane Eyre is a very, that one's right there. You see how Jane Eyre is a thicker book, and if you've ever read Jane Eyre, you know that that's a thicker one. I'm trying to see one. The Heartmender, if you've never read The Heartmender, that one's really good. So that was a thinner book right there. And so she just kind of mapped it out so we would know which blocks we needed to use, because then in the pattern booklet it shows you the sizes of each one of those strips to make. So she has everything. Echo is another World War II book. Excellent book. Excellent book. It is 3 different storylines. You see 3 different families during World War II, and then how they all come together at the end. Very fascinating. And you got to listen to that one on audio, because the audio makes that book. So just a little recommendation there. So anyway, this is for Maggie, and Maggie did this, and then we went to the fabric store and bought fabrics that she liked. And I'm kind of doing this backwards, but I'm building up the suspense so you can see the quilt. So she likes a lot of the muted colors. So this is Kansas Trouble by Moda. So this is one of the fabrics she used. She picked out some reds, some greens, a little sagey type color, even a little mustard and browns, and little bits of blue. All right, so these were all the spines of the books, and then we picked out a background fabric, and then an actual fabric for the bookcase part itself. So you have the background that's behind the books, then you have the bookcase fabric itself, and then you have another border around that. Now, like I said, this is the picture, these are the fabrics that Maggie picked out. But when I saw this one at that expo, I bought all of the fabrics, and I just have to show you these two. I've not made these into anything yet, because these are not quite the colorways that my girls wanted, but someday I'm going to use, I love these fabrics. If you have not seen these, you've got to get a hold of them. So look at this. These are all books. The Boxcar Children, Calculus book, Through the Looking Glass, Pollyanna, Anna Green Gables, Moby Dick. Oh, that's just one of the prints. And then she has, these are all by Crimson Tate. And then she has typewritten words. 2 different colorways there. You have a gray one with purple, and then a blue one with the dark, almost like a dark green color. She has that in several colorways. There's some of my favorite. Look at this. These are date stamps. Did you never play with the date stamps? Or do you remember going to the library when you actually had to date stamp? They would date stamp your return card and slip it into the back. Not only that, look, she has the author cards, the library cards that you would pull out of the back of the book. This one says Beatrix Potter. It even has some names. Isn't that just the cutest? I love these. I love these. And I will make something with them. But that's why I said when I saw these in the booth, I said I want the pattern and I want all of the fabrics. Here's the same. The books are more lined up. So the colorway is more blues, almost a teal blue, and some browns and purples. Then you have some other coordinating colors that go with it. That's the same. Some different colorways. Let me see if there's anything different. This one is books, more of a low tone, low volume. Same thing in blue. Is that it? Then you have some of the same fabrics, but more, oh, I like this one too. This is the big stacks of books. Oh, let me show you this one. Okay, so this one, I just thought I could make a project bag out of this. Wouldn't that be cute? Or a book bag. So this one has the library cards on the top, and then across the bottom are the stacks of books. Oh my goodness, that would be so fun as a project bag. Ooh, I would love that. I would love that, love that. Okay, same one, but this is done in the blue. So pretty. I just love these fabrics. So she got me hook, line, and sinker. I just bought them all. So I was in, and like I said, I got all of these fabrics when I went to the expo, and it was in her booth, and I said, I want that stack, and I want that stack, and I want that. I since have been down to Heather's store, Crimson Tate store, downtown Indianapolis, and let me show you a couple of the other patterns that I picked up when I'm there. Oh, when I was there over the summertime, I picked up this bundle too. It's writing paper. And she even like folded them in the shape of like the paper footballs. Did you do that when you were a kid in school, the paper footballs? So 3 colorways, blue, the white, and the yellow. I don't know how I'm gonna do this yet, but that might be cute as a project bag too. I don't know. So here's a couple of the other patterns that when I was in there the last time that she had. So here is this says a correspondence mini quilt. This looks like a placemat, and you can see the envelope and the writing paper, and she's like fussy cut things so that it looks like stamps. So just I thought that was cute, just like a little placemat that you could use. This could even be used like under the sewing machine, like you make that and then have that as your mat underneath your sewing machine. I think that's cute. Or a wall hanging on the wall. I gotta get busy. All right, and here's another one that she made. I can take this out of the package. This is, sorry about that, a library sign quilt. Isn't that cute? This isn't real big. This finishes as 30 by 32. Here's a picture on the back where she's stood next to it with a little library sign. I don't know if those are, to be honest, I don't know if those are state of Indiana type or if those are signs that are used across the U.S. I don't know, but around here anyway, that is the sign that shows you there's a public library close by. So that would be fun, even as the white, yeah. And the blue there, from a distance, it just looks like a solid blue, but it's actually one of those with the typewritten words that is the background for that. So that's really cute. So that one, and then the other quilt I picked up, this says a book club quilt. Turn your next quilting bee meetup into a discussion of your favorite novels with the book club quilt. So this one measures, these are very large books. Let me see. Sorry, I should have looked at this better before. This finishes, it doesn't maybe, okay. The pattern includes applique templates to create a lap-size quilt, so 55 by 70, and it makes the books are very large. You know, so your quilt block, you know, your book is going to be like a 2.5 inch rectangle, 2.5 inch tall with a longer, you know, maybe 10 or 12 inches. I don't know. More than that if it's going to be 55 inches, right? Wow, that's got to be big then. So if you had somebody that didn't want to do this whole, you know, 50-some books or whatever, and you just had, you know, a dozen books, you could do it really large like that. So now's the time to start, because this would be a good graduation gift for somebody. So that one's just really large ones. And maybe that's what I can use the fabrics for, since it's not quite, the fabrics aren't quite the colorway that I would like, but that would look really cute. So anyway, just love, 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 love. Love those. Love anything like that. So all that to show you what the quilt looks like. So I finished long arm quilting it. So Maggie, what we did, I didn't want to just make the quilt and give it to him. So what we did is we went to the quilt store together. We picked out the fabrics. We came back home. I had the girls actually cut the fabrics for their own quilts. So Maggie's is the muted colors. Emily's is not quite finished yet. Hers is in pastel colors because that's Emily's colorway. Emily's name is Emily Rose, so she fits her name. And we'll show that one at a later date. Then my mother has an embroidery machine, and so the girls took their quilts or the quilt blocks. Let me back up. I had Maggie cut the fabrics, and then I would actually stitch them together so that they had a part in making it. And then they had the graph paper that showed what names they wanted. We took the quilt blocks. I don't think we put them all together in the quilt. I think we gave them to my mom as quilt blocks so that then she could embroider the names on it. And she did such a great job because she would look up the book on the internet to see what the font was that the book was made, that the title was written in, and then she tried to mimic that on the embroidery that she did. And so she did probably 80% of the titles that the girls wanted, and then they also did some of their own hand embroidery to do some of the titles they wanted. So then I've put it on the long arm, and I just couldn't wait to show you. I still need to do the binding, but I couldn't wait to show you. So are you ready to see it? Okay. All right. Here we go. So hers isn't the largest one now that I have it out. It's probably 50 by 60. Let me just hold it up higher so you can see the bottom. So what do you think? You like it? Let me show you each row up a little closer. This one, the books are actually upside down, but we decided to leave it because it's like, who doesn't have upside down books on their bookshelf, right? So you can see some of the names. The Gift of the Magi, that's one of Maggie's favorite books. Girls Club, that's a book that suggests books to read. Little House on the Prairie is this one. The Green Ember, and she put that one on a green book. With Lee in Virginia, so she has some history. That's the Dean's Watch. I know she really loved that. And then Maggie wanted a plant on hers. She didn't quite like the plant that Heather had in the magazine or in the pattern, so I said, if you can trace it off of something else, and then I can applique that down. So we did like a little viney plant. You can see how it trails down. And we just traced that onto, what did I use? Some sort, I can't remember. I'll have to get that for you. I traced on something that the iron-on fusible is what I used. We traced it onto that, and then I ironed it onto the back of fabric, and then we cut it out. and then I appliqued those down. Machine appliqued them. Appliqued those down. And then just did, to create some of the vines in between, just did a really tight zigzag stitch with green. I don't know if you can see that. Really tight zigzag stitch with some green just to make it look like a trailing vine. All right, and here's some more. Secret Garden, Echo. So do you see how she made different books, different title, or different sizes? And she didn't put titles on all of them, because if you look at your bookshelf, not all your books have titles on the edge. She can always go back later and add more if she wants to. That's Anne of Green Gables. Sorry about that. There's the Jane Eyre one that you saw on the diagram. There it came to being. Do you see, so Mere Christianity, do you see how my mom did the, let me turn it this way. So how she did the font to kind of match what it would look like. And then here's one that Maggie did through Gates of Splendor. She did that one herself, hand embroidery with that one. Go to the next row here. So just such fun. Maggie did a good job of ordering the colors and putting them. Fellowship of the Ring, Wuthering Heights, look at that. And Mom even did, look at the font on that. Doesn't that match? And then she even put the author's name on there, and this one too, Fellowship of the Ring. And it says J.R.R. Tolkien. Isn't that so cute? Here's Joe's Boys, and Maggie embroidered that one herself. I think she did that one too. That one, Moon Over Manifest. Emma, that's one of her favorites. And then here's the bottom row. Whoops. And then there's the bottom row. And in the pattern, Heather even gives you some block ideas if you wanted to put encyclopedias. She gives them some patterns, so some bigger, taller books. I think ours are all the same height. I'm pretty sure all of these, but I know that in the pattern booklet that there are some blocks that you can make that are taller. So like if you wanted to do encyclopedias or atlases or something like that, if you were making this for a husband. All right, and so real quick here, I know this video is pretty long here. Real quick, do you see the pantograph? Pantograph is called Bookmarks. Isn't that perfect? I like this one because it has a little bit of diagonal. I like the little bit of a circle in there to add a little bit of definition, so it's not all straight up and down along with the books. It adds a little bit to it. But again, in the background, quilting, like I always say, is secondary. So when you walk into a room and see this hanging on a wall, you're going to see the quilt first. It's not till you get up closer would you actually see the pantograph. So they go hand in hand, but your piecing is what's going to be seen first. And there you can see the little darker. So I like that. The background behind the books is just a little bit of a white polka dot. White with gray, yeah. Very subtle. And then she did the bookcase, the darker brown. And then we picked this border fabric. We thought, well, doesn't that kind of look like wallpaper? And then on the back, she chose the green print. So let me show you that so you can see the pantograph a little easier. So she chose a green, and obviously the pantograph shows up on the back because I used a creamish color thread on the front, and I used the same on the back. If I would have gone with a darker color on the back, bobbin thread on the back, there is no way to be absolutely perfect on a long arm machine. The tension to be perfect on a long arm machine. So if I had used a color or a light, a cream color fabric on the front and done a green binding, you would have seen little pin pricks of the darker color through the top, and I did not want that. I would prefer the backing to be able to see the cream on that. And again, from a distance, it just looks like green, and it looks like some, you know, some definition to the green. It's not until you get in closer do you actually see that it's white thread. But I would much prefer that than to have little green dots poking through the top. If it's a busy top, sometimes I will do that. I can do 2 different colors, one on the top and one on the bottom. If it's a busy quilt top where you're not going to see or not going to notice those little dots come through. But this one I definitely didn't want any green on the top because I wanted those books and the background fabric to show up. I just love it. I just love it. Can't wait to finish the binding. She's excited. She told me, can you finish the binding on that so I can take it to work? I've been telling everybody about it. So it's taken us a while. I mean, I know 2020, but y'all know 2020. They graduated in 2020. It took us a while to pick out the fabrics, but they'll remember this as their graduation gift. So fun, so fun. I was so excited to share that with you today. So, and I'll be excited to work on Emily's. I know Emily's excited now that Maggie's got hers done. It's like, oh, she's wanting to get hers. Emily's wanting to now get hers done so that she can use hers as well. So that's all I have for today. A really fun day, really full day. I've got to package up these quilts so that I can get those ready to take home. And if you have any questions, please just drop them in the comments. I'll do all I can to find the answers for you. And let me know what you'd like to see. If you're needing long arm quilting done, I'll direct you over to my website, tammyernestquilting.com. And all there, it has the prepping instructions, and you can download the instructions on how to get your quilt to me. I'd be happy to work on it in the new year. And any of the quilts, I'd really appreciate it if you go back and watch some older videos. If you're new to my channel, still learning, and I appreciate your help and your comments that you've given. Like I mentioned, that Christmas quilt was on the last video, and other ones I've shared, other client quilts. I appreciate if you go back and look at and watch some of those others. And it's Christmas. Hope you'll take time with your family. Enjoy the true meaning of Christmas. Hope you're in church on Sunday morning. I really love when Christmas falls on a Sunday, because I feel like it. We're going to get up in the morning, we're going to do our stockings, and we're going to go to church, and then come back home and do a brunch. I think we're going to do a brunch, and then open gifts in the afternoon. I just think it's I enjoy it. I enjoy Christmas being on a Sunday, and how it breaks up the day, and we get the true meaning of Christmas right off the bat, and then sets the tone for the day. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too, and I pray that you have a wonderful Christmas with your family, and we will see you here next week.